Hey there, pirates. Welcome aboard the Anime No Me channel. Rayleigh is heading to Elbaf to show Luffy how he should use his Haki. A new training is about to begin, one alongside Scopper Gaban, with Luffy so that in the end, Luffy may reach a level of Haki that neither of them has ever achieved. I hope for your support to help our crew win, and to do so, you just need to click the thumbs up button, leave a like, and subscribe to the channel. By doing this, you will win an incredible devil fruit, so just comment which fruit you want. Guys, Rayleigh made his full debut in chapter 500, and even after all this time, it's still clear that the impact of his presence goes beyond any definition of power or direct importance. Whenever Rayleigh shows up, something changes. And I believe that maybe his last major appearance hasn't happened yet, not for his own glory, but to mark the peak of someone else's journey. That's why I truly believe Rayleigh will appear in Elbaf. Not to shine alone, but to deliver the legacy that's still missing. Because everything he's done so far has been to prepare the ground. And perhaps what remains is to pass on something only he can teach. Ever since we first saw Gear 5 in chapter 1044, it became clear that Luffy isn't just carrying Joy Boy's will. He's transforming the world around him with an energy that's not just about strength, but also about contagious freedom. The way he laughs through pain, as if laughter itself is a way to overcome the impossible. And even with all that, maybe there's one final ingredient still missing. Something only someone who stood beside Roger, who saw the end of an era, and understood that the world's secret wasn't hidden in weapons or titles, but in something only a few can feel. The Haki that shapes destinies. Rayleigh once said back in chapter 597 that there's a limit to what Haki can do. But even in that technical conversation with Luffy, you could sense there was more behind his words. As if there's a kind of Haki that can only be understood by those who've lived long enough to see the world with a different kind of wisdom. I think maybe Roger's Haki was that kind. Not a power learned through constant training, but something that emerges when someone carries the weight of centuries of will. And if that's true, then maybe Rayleigh has kept this secret all these years, waiting for the moment when someone could truly carry it forward. And that someone is Luffy, not just because he's the main character, but because he's the only one who can still smile when everything's falling apart. The only one who still hears the drums even when the world offers only silence. Maybe Rayleigh will go to Elbaf because he knows that's where everything will converge. Since the first chapters of the Egghead arc, everything suggests the Giants are going to take a stand, that the world will finally split between those who seek control and those who were born to be free. And in that scenario, Luffy can no longer be just the boy who learned Haki in Ruscaina. He needs to become the new symbol. And I believe that's only possible if he manages to master Haki in a way no one else has. Not Kaido, not Shanks, not Garp, not even the Five Elders. Roger's Haki, it seems, was so strong it could break structures, tear the sky, alter everything around him, and even without eating a devil fruit, he reigned over all. That alone is a sign that there's a depth to this power that still hasn't been fully revealed. Maybe because it only manifests when someone is in total harmony with their spirit, their laughter, and their pain. And if that's the case, then Luffy is closer to it than anyone else. But no matter how far Luffy has come on his own, he still needs someone to show him what's missing. And Rayleigh, as the only living man who fought shoulder to shoulder with Roger for decades, might be the only one who can do that. Not with words, but by sharing the vibration, the weight, the silence of someone who has seen the whole world and realized the answer was never written down. It was always meant to be felt. And if Rayleigh does go to Elbaf, he won't be alone. I believe that Gaban, who is already fighting alongside Luffy in Elbaf, would also appear to help train him. He has always been a whispered name, a piece of history that Oda has kept in reserve for when it's truly necessary. Maybe because his presence wouldn't be about nostalgia, but about the need to complete a circle. Roger had Rayleigh and Gaban as his two arms, and Luffy, who is about to challenge not just the world government, but also the blood-written history, might need the two men who still carry the living memory of the former king. And if both of them appear together, it won't be to turn Luffy into a copy of Roger, but to ensure that the spirit of freedom doesn't get lost. Maybe Gaban is more direct, more physical, more movement-oriented, while Rayleigh remains the one who teaches through silence, through presence. And together, they won't just train Luffy, they'll confirm to the world that the successor has been chosen, not by blind fate, but by the choices he's made. Maybe Rayleigh will reveal something he's never told anyone before. That Roger, even with all his strength, sometimes doubted himself. That his Haki wasn't just brute force, but a way of protecting, of listening, of touching the souls of others. Something something that Luffy already does without even realizing it. Maybe deep down, this special Haki is the purest manifestation of laughter, the refusal to give in to pain, the constant desire to make others free too. And if that's the case, then Luffy's ready. All that's left is for someone to confirm it. All that's left is for Rayleigh to hand over what he's kept hidden ever since Roger's departure, waiting for the right moment. And maybe that moment is Elbaf, a place so full of myths, of history, of giant voices. It's the perfect stage for a reunion with the past, a place where the screams of the future will echo louder than ever. I think at this point in the story, Rayleigh knows his time is running out, but instead of stepping back, maybe he'll decide to take one last step. And it won't be a step toward battle. It will be a step of trust. To stand beside Luffy when he finally understands what it means to carry the most powerful Haki. Not just as a force, but as a universal language that connects all those who dared to laugh, even when there was no hope left. And if that happens, then Luffy's Haki won't just be strong, it will be revolutionary. Capable of breaking the oldest chains not because it destroys, but because it awakens. And maybe Rayleigh will see that, smile, and know that his role is complete. Not for having taught techniques, but for having shown the path to someone who was born to make the world laugh again. In Elbaf, the drums of liberation haven't echoed yet, but the silence is heavy, like the breath before a storm. The world is bending, as if acknowledging that something is about to be born or reborn. This is where the story stops being a sequence of battles and becomes the revelation of a destiny. Luffy, even with Gear 5, even with all the spontaneity that defines his strength, still stands before something even he doesn't fully understand. A subtle void, a kind of absence that only reveals itself when everything seems complete. And that void has a name, Roger's Haki, or more precisely, the Haki that once belonged to Joy Boy. Because if there's one thing clear to all who still keep their eyes open, it's that Roger wasn't the peak, he was the echo of something greater, of someone who carried not only the will of a people, but the world's laughter itself. And now that someone is Luffy, it's no coincidence that Zunisha recognized the drums. It's not about strength, it's about frequency, about resonance. But even drums need rhythm, and the rhythm that's missing can only be reached when body, mind, and spirit are in harmony. Joy Boy's Haki was so devastating not because it was only offensive, but because it was communicative. It was will turned into sound, laughter turned into impact, freedom made tangible. And Luffy, though closer to that than anyone else, is still learning how to listen. That's why Rayleigh needs to be there, not as a teacher, but as a witness, as the guardian of the final piece of the puzzle. Roger was so strong that even without a devil fruit, he stood toe-to-toe with the greatest monsters of the sea. But that's well known. What many still don't understand is that his Haki wasn't powerful because of its quantity, but because of its purity. The Conqueror's Haki, the way Roger used it, wasn't meant to subjugate. It was meant to liberate. That's what Rayleigh saw. That's what he could never teach anyone because it can't be taught. It can only be recognized. And maybe that's exactly why he kept his distance, not waiting for a student, but for a mirror of the one who once set sail with a smile and left the world in silence. But the world is about to laugh again, and that laughter needs to be felt by those who came before, so it can be passed on with authenticity. Luffy needs to reach Roger's level of Haki Knot to be stronger than Kaido or equal to Shanks, but because only with that kind of power will he be able to face what awaits him. The full revelation of the Void Century, the true plans of the Five Elders, and above all, the weight of being the new Joy Boy. We've seen Roger's Haki in hindsight. We've understood that Shanks's is monstrous, able to affect even the space around him. But what about Joy Boy's? Little is known, but there are signs, small, powerful signs that his Haki was more than strength. It was influence over reality itself. Luffy's own fruit, the Hito no Mi, Model Nika, already hints at this malleable nature of existence that follows the true Joy Boy. Joy Boy didn't bend the world through power. He bent it through laughter, and his Haki was perhaps the catalyst of that distortion of reality. A power that doesn't just impose will, but reconnects living beings to their essence. A Haki that pierces through physical, mental, and historical layers. And that's why Luffy needs more than technique. He needs one last spiritual push from someone who lived beside the truth and still carries the echo of Roger's laughter within it. That was today's content. We hope you liked it and want to share your opinion on the subject. Don't forget to share the video, give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care and stay amazing.